Tiaha te mea nui o te ao. Māku e ki atu, he tangata, he tangata, he tangata. What is the greatest thing in this world? It is the people, the people, the people.
He mihi tēnei ki a koutou katoa, nau mai hoki mai ki te hōtaka nei o te ahi kā, ko Marae rakuraku tēnei.
Ko Justin Murray tēnei, welcome to Te Ahi Kā, our program featuring Māori topics and kōrero.
And speaking of kōrero, if you've ever wanted to learn a few new Māori words, this is the place to be with our Māori words or Ngā Kupu Hou segment coming up.
Protesting is one way of drawing attention to an issue and fighting for something you believe in, like bring back buck.
And Māori have a long history of doing so.
Hone heke in 1844.
Takaparafo, Bastion Point from the 1850s through to its more well-known manifestations in 1977 and 1978.
The 1975 Land March.
The 1981 Springbok Tour.
Pākai Tore in 1995.
Through to more recent campaigns like the Foreshore and Seabed Hikoi in 2004.
Those are more well-known events, and along the way there have been smaller challenges, such as one Dr. Merimeri Penfold recalls.
And that was the fight to build Waipapa Marae at the University of Auckland.
Students rallied around and they camped outside the Vice-Chancellor's office. He walked over them, steps down out of the premises, and they had baked pork bones and whatnot in the premises, slept outside the door overnight, put up tents. That was how they took over his garage and slept in there. The Vice-Chancellor couldn't park his car. They did all that sort of thing, you know. Pera te kao, o rātou whakarora ke whakatungi he marae.
Merimeri Penfold, who also happens to be this year's recipient of Te Tohu Aroha mō Ngoi Kumeroa Pewhairangi. That's coming up later in the program.
Now, at our website, radionz.co.nz/Te Ahi Kā, you'll find a list of words and you'll also be able to listen to past programs.
Dr. Merimeri Penfold is a shaker and a mover, receiving awards left, right and centre in the education scene.
And as an advocate of Te Reo Māori, she has been named not once, but twice in Te Wakatoi Creative New Zealand Awards. The first one as a recipient of the Sūkingi Ihaka Award in 98.
And 10 years later, Te Tohu Aroha mō Ngoi Kumeroa Pewhairangi. Justin talked to Dr. Penfold about the award and some of the more memorable moments in her 64-year career in teaching.
Ko kurahau po te waka, ko Ngāti Kuri teiwi. Tēnei waka I tau mai te murihiku, I te trohe o teika mau, te hiko teika. Nō reira a hau koe tera taku wā kāinga. Aka haere nei te puta nei te kōrero ko maunga piko te maunga. Ko pārengarenga te moana, ko ihutara te tangata, ko Ngāti Kuri teiwi. Pēnā koe he nā ngā whakatau mōku.
How did you react when you heard of the great news that you were a recipient?
Well, you know, I thought about that, and because I had already been awarded the Kingi Ihaka Award. And that was some years ago, you know. I thought, oh, you know, what is this about? Because I looked at it and, you know, I had real feelings because it was Ngoi Pewhairangi. O te mei roto Ngāti Proi te wāhi te rā kuia e mahi ane tuhi ane wana waiata. And because of that, I believe this award need to acknowledge her by singing all the beautiful waiata that she wrote. They need to be heard. So often they're not heard. These beautiful, composed waiata. Ka re rongo hiana. E ngā tātou tamariki. And I believed that we, people who have been awarded this, should somehow mihi by singing some of her waiata.
You received a honorary doctorate of literature in 2000 from the University of Auckland.
Oh yes, that was alarming sort of happening, because it was not literature that I was being recognized for, but rather my involvement in establishing a marae, Waipapa Marae, on the campus. Koe hoki tera tā mātou karanga. You know, Auckland was the largest Polynesian centre in the world, and yet if strangers came upon the scene and looked at the University of Auckland, they would have believed that it was at the bottom end of the Britain. It was so English, and there was no evidence that there were Maori or Polynesians around.
And how long did that take from
It took
conception?
about 15 years. The students protested. They said things like the Vice-Chancellor was a fraud, the treaty was a fraud, and the marae was a fraud.
Was that about the same time as the Māori Students Association was set up?
Yes. Well, I think the Māori Students Association was still there, but the first time they really became active. Ngā Tamatoa were around at the time, you know. It was around about that time. And, of course, students rallied around and they camped outside the Vice-Chancellor's office. He walked over them, steps down out of the premises. And they had baked bones and whatnot in the premises, slept outside the door overnight, put up tents. That was how they took over his garage and slept in there. The Vice-Chancellor couldn't park his car. They did all that sort of thing, you know. Pera te kao, o rātou whakarora ki whakatungi he marae. It's interesting how that came about because initially Matt Te Hau and Pat Hoepa looked at a rugby shed that was on the premises and believed that they should turn it to a student facility, Māori student, marae, ne? So it was tricky politics that we were playing.
Would that particular event have been one of the, milestones in your
It
career?
was. It was a momentous occasion, you know, and suddenly forcing the university to recognise that Māori existed, you know?
Yes.
And by putting that down there, you know, afterwards the visiting people visiting the university had to be karanga on the marae. Nā mātui karanga.
And so was that the first term biculturalism was implemented in Auckland?
And it was a difficult thing for them to handle because while we were arguing about the marae, they had no Māori words in their vocab. They didn't know how to say the word marae. They didn't know what we're talking about when we're talking about a marae that consisted of the whareruna, the whare tupuna, and the wharekai. So they said yes to both, but then when they read, they realised that they had said yes to 2 buildings and not one. They thought they were supporting one. We got them every time. So we used the Maori language sometimes to slip in concepts that they did not approve of, but because they didn't know what it meant, they said yes. Ai rungai tēnā tikanga puta tēnei nā rātou rā te tono. Kia uhia mai te rāhutanga ki runga iau.
Koe rā te kōrero a Dr. Merimeri Penfold.
Anei te kōrero a Paurorangi Whetū, he uri no Kaitahu me Ngāti Porou.
I hea te mea nui o te ao, māku e ki atu, he tangata, he tangata, he tangata. What is the main thing in this world? To me, it's our people, our people, our people.
He mihi ki nā kai kōrero me nā kai mihini I te wiki nei. Me hoki mai anō ki te whare nei o Te Ahika.